Saudi Arabia says the first OPEC plus supply cut in more than a year shows the cartel is serious about managing global crude markets. And we're joined by the CEO and head of oil research at CMarkits, Dr. Yousef Alshammari. Thank you for being with us today, Yousef. Now, an output cut of 100,000 barrels per day, it's really meaningless as OPEC is already short of fulfilling its pledged quota by around 3 million barrels per day. So is this supply cut really about sending a message to the market?
Hello, Ramia. I'm very pleased to speak to Forbes this morning. Well, as you know, before yesterday's decision, there was a clear statement coming from the Saudi energy minister just almost more than a week ago. And he did send a signal to the market that OPEC Plus is ready to act, even to cut production if the market requires. Now, looking at the price movement over the past couple of weeks, as you know, there are concerns of global recession, and of course we've seen Brent trading or Brent prices went close to $90. In fact, even WTI went below $90, and this is the first time in 2022. So I believe yesterday's decision really shows that OPEC Plus is worried about further decline in crude oil prices and the possibility of oversupply in the markets. In fact, even the JTC, when they met just the week before the OPEC Plus meeting, and what they've reported was that they're expecting 300,000 barrels of oversupply in the markets in 2022. So, and I think because there was a decision to ramp up production by 100,000 barrels just last month, so essentially they've just decided to remove that extra 100,000 barrels, which is all on paper, that they've pledged to do last month. So I guess here, for OPEC Plus, $90 to $100 is kind of the new $60 to $70, which we used to see before the pandemic.
So 90 to 100 is the new 60 to 70. Okay, let's talk about the oil price cap on Russian oil. The Kremlin says it won't sell its oil to countries that implement the cap. It's not really that simple, though, is it?
Well, the G7 decision that, actually was made last week is catastrophic in my view. It can lead to a global energy crisis because I guess the consequences of that decision can go beyond Russia. And it raises risks for the global oil industry, especially if you're going to sanction Russian oil exports and you're putting a cap or a ceiling on the prices. Of course, essentially this is sanctioning Russian oil companies, and certainly other oil companies around the world will also start raising the risk on that. So I would think that Russia could easily stop exporting oil to those countries which have implemented the cap and diverting its crude to other countries, including especially in the Asian markets, China, India, and even Japan and other Asian markets, and they can easily bypass that decision. And what does that mean? That means there could be shortage in oil supplies going to the markets because Russia will certainly cut some part of its oil, and that will send the prices up again. So I think it's a decision that certainly will not help the G7 countries, and I guess it will add further on global inflation. One thing here is that the ceiling that has been made on the Russian oil exports, what was the driver for that? And I think the main driver was because of the likelihood that a deal between the US and Iran perhaps not being reached within a short period. So there's a possibility that the G7 can continue to buy oil from Russia while not financing the Russian war in Ukraine. So these are kind of the drivers, but certainly I don't think it's a decision that can work. And I believe the consequences can go right beyond Russia, and it can be catastrophic for the global energy industry.
Now, crude futures have lost about 20% in the past 3 months on fears of the global economic slowdown, which we're already witnessing. Do you expect prices to drop further?
Well, in the past, I used to expect prices to fall down because of what we're expecting in possibly weaker demand as we move towards 2023 and concerns of a global recession. But now with yesterday's OPEC Plus decision, I think the alliance will continue to be in control. So with any possibilities of oversupply or weaker demand, I think OPEC Plus will be ready to act to keep prices at least above $90 or possibly even within the $100 range. So the possibility of a major price collapse is certainly not it's not something that I would expect. Russia is also cooperating very well with the alliance, and we've seen their statements. They're also planning to cut about 2% of their production in the next year. So the possibility of a major price collapse is certainly not within our forecast.
Okay, let's go back to the Iran nuclear deal for a moment. It may be delayed, but if it does go through and we have Iranian oil back on the market, where could we see the oil price head?
Well, if Iran certainly comes back, they have something like 1 million barrels, more than 1 million barrels of production that they can bring to the markets within 1 year of presuming that sanctions are lifted. On top of that, they have about 100 million barrels of oil that is already in storage, so they can bring that back to the markets immediately. So here we're talking about at least 1 to 2 million barrels of extra supply that can come to the markets in case of a deal between the P5+1 and Iran. So certainly here, if we assume that OPEC Plus will continue to supply within its current production levels, then we could see prices falling below $90. But if OPEC Plus will make any cuts, then I would expect the markets to continue to be within the $100 price. But one thing here is uncertain as if really there will be a deal between the P5+1 and Iran. And of course, Iran now is putting some conditions to close all the IAEA investigations within its nuclear activities. And I guess this is a very difficult condition to be implemented by the US.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for your insights today, CEO and Head of Oil Research at CMarkits, Dr. Yousef Alshammari.